consumption of information that keeps rising. To quote Bernard Moore, every 2 days we generate as much data as we did from the beginning of time until the year 2000. That's right, every 2 days. Many of us can probably relate to the next slide. Facebook, Twitter, social media, YouTube, Google, you name it. To predictions from the IDC, the International Data Corporation, also show this exponential growth of data. We keep generating data on and on and again. Every action you take that involves technology leaves a digital footprint. We're going to look at 2 examples of companies that use big data. Carfax. Carfax is a great example that stores over 13 billion documents to store vehicle history reports, to connect potential buyers like you and I to used vehicles. Comcast is another example that processes over 100,000 operations every single second. Can you imagine? 100,000 operations per second. That's big data. So, understanding big data. What is big data? They can be defined as massive amounts of large data sets, extremely large data sets that are analyzed to discover patterns and trends. And oftentimes they're used for predictive analytics, human interaction, marketing, advertising, and things like that. So, big data can also be described in terms of volume, variety, and velocity. Also, you can use veracity. But a lot of times the volume of the data determines whether it can be considered big data or not. That brings us to the key question of my discussion today. What technology would you use to store over 250 billion records? That's a lot of numbers. Well, the short answer in the context of our discussion today is to use NoSQL databases. But coming back, what is a database? Simply said, a database is an organized collection of information that can be stored for easy information retrieval and access or management. There are 2 types of databases that we're going to be looking at today. Relational databases. Relational databases are typically based on a table system. Think of rows and columns. This is a great example of a student table. You have rows and columns showing what is stored. There are several examples of relational databases out there. MySQL, Oracle, those are the big names some of us are familiar with. NoSQL databases, on the other hand, they're different from relational databases because they store data typical of big data, unstructured data, and those ones typically have a flexible schema. So the difference, and so like I said before, that the question, what technology would you use to store big data, 250 billion records, we're talking about NoSQL databases. Well, let's try to understand that. 2 reasons why we're using NoSQL databases that I'm discussing today: scalability and reduced cost. Scalability. NoSQL databases have a horizontal scale-out model, which means to increase the capacity of your data, to increase the capacity of a system, you're adding nodes. As you can see from the picture, in a relational database, which is the vertical scalability, to increase the capacity, to increase data demands, to handle more data demands, you're adding resources to just one system. So you're adding resources and adding resources to just one single computer, one single server. It gets to a point that a limit is reached and you can no longer add anything. On the other side, NoSQL databases, you can add resources, you can add cheaper computers. You can keep adding computers to form a cluster. As you add those computers, you increase the capacity and the throughput and performance of the overall system. Thereby, no matter the amount of data that keeps coming in, you can still handle the demands. This is a summary of relational databases and NoSQL databases. You have the table system, like I discussed before, and you have NoSQL that can handle different types of data. Reduced cost. As you imagine, when you have a vertical scale-up model, you're just trying to increase the capacity of one system. It gets to a point that the engineering costs keep increasing because you're just trying to add, say, a processor and CPU and all these different things to just one system. So in NoSQL databases, you have a lot of reduced engineering costs. As I conclude this discussion today, I would like us to think about, how are you generating big data? What action are you taking that leaves that digital footprint that creates more data? And also, what could big data